We celebrated the stats, but we never asked about his soul. Welcome to Legends in the Making, the podcast for parents, founders, and visionaries ready to lead from clarity, not chaos. I'm your host, Erin Bowers, mom, movement builder, and truth teller. And this is where we return to who we really are. And today it says, Dear Legends in the Making, my son is a standout athlete. Coaches love him. Scouts notice him. His name already is being whispered in recruiting circles, and he's only 16. On paper, he's everything parents dream of: strong, fast, competitive, and driven. But underneath the highlights and hype, I see what no one else does. He's tired, disconnected, easily agitated. He pushes his body harder than anyone, but emotionally, he's fraying. He's performing, yes, but he has no idea who he's performing for anymore. I can tell him he's lost in the noise, in the social media metrics, the pressure to always show up, the expectation that he has to be on 24/7. And truthfully, I think I'm building the stage he's now suffocating on. We celebrate the stats, but never ask about his soul. We praised the hustle, but skip the conversations about why he even wants this. I keep thinking we talk about this after the season or after the scholarship, but now I'm afraid that we won't be an after if we keep this pace. My son doesn't need another medal. He needs meaning. And as I write this, I realize I don't know how to help him find it because I'm still trying to remember where I lost mine. We're running so hard towards success, and I'm terrified we're going to crash before we ever arrive. What do you do when the performance is strong, but the purpose is hollow? A parent trying to rebuild the foundation before it's too late. Wow, what a beautiful letter. And I just think about what you just shared of so often we create these external metrics, these external successes or rewards that we think this is what it's about. But you hit it on the head towards the end of the letter around the purpose feels hollow. What is the purpose? Athletics can be a vehicle, but at the end of the day, you have a greater purpose than just your athletic performance. And so high performance without purpose is a mask. And eventually the mask becomes suffocating. It's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between who you are and who you're meant to be. And oftentimes we use things like athletics to not have to sit with ourselves, and we use it to get accolades because it's like, oh, I'm good at this, so I'll tell people, people will praise me for this, and this is great. But in all actuality, when we're disconnected from the truth of who we are, those things are very shallow, and oftentimes they're used as a tool to numb. We always think of like, oh, people use things to escape other things, whether it's, drugs or alcohol, it's like an escape mechanism. But oftentimes what we don't realize is when we're not connected into who we are and the purpose of who we are and why God brought us here, things like even athletics, athletic endeavors, jobs, work, they can become essentially a drug, something to mask having to sit with who am I supposed to be? And in doing this, does this really align with me? Because we often at times associate that with success. And the sad reality is the success is becoming who we're supposed to be and aligning with that. And also when we step into the truth of who we are and align with that, we also then create access to really being in the flow of life. And oftentimes, just because things look good doesn't mean it's aligned. Just because somebody's out being a high performer, underneath, you don't see what's going on. And we have become obsessed with performance and looks and aesthetics And we have totally eroded the foundation that we're supposed to be building from. And we're teaching our kids to chase those things. And in chasing those things, they're missing out on who they really are, as well as they're not using the sport in what's going on to really teach them how to grow. So if you're not connected into who you are and the way you're supposed to be, then you have a problem. Then you're just performing with no intent. And you get these accolades, and you see it all the time with people that perform at a high level, then it ends, and they just don't even know who they are. It's like everything is so wrapped up in that, and that's became their identity, which wasn't truly their identity, that they don't then know what to do anymore. And so it is so important to help teach our kids that we don't define their worth by wins. We define their worth by who they are. And if they define the worth by wins or stats or whatever, ultimately the wins will own them. They won't own themselves. They'll be owned by the game. And then it becomes I've got to go chase that high because I'm lacking inside. This is where I got my praise and accolades. This is where I got recognition. But inside I feel hollow. Well, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you feel called to doing? And how do you use athletics as an expression of that? We are raising young adults to chase applause, to chase likes on social medias, to change image, to choose things that become fast cash, whether they are advantageous to them or not. We are teaching young human beings, to choose things that are in alignment with their souls, to do things that they will look back on their life and regret. And they'll look back in their life and regret because they're not choosing from their highest place. They're not choosing in alignment with the truth of who they are. They're choosing it because it is an instant gratification. Everybody else is doing the peer pressure. Like, we cannot raise a generation like that anymore. That just has to stop. We are destroying our culture. We're destroying our youth by not teaching them to stand in their worth, know who they are, be worthy of that, and stand in that, and not care what anybody or any else thinks, and not to chase instant gratification. And what we celebrate in the short term can destroy them in the long term if you're not rooted in clarity. I think of choices people make, and it's like they do it in that moment, and then down the line, it's like, that is not a choice I want to be making. I regret that decision because I felt the pressure in that moment. And it's like, how do you create the space of does this reflect who you are? Is this a decision you're proud of? Who are you? And if you don't want to be doing sports anymore, great. Let's find what you should be doing and let's move into that. We also cannot be living vicariously through our children. If we weren't successful at something, we shouldn't expect for them to be successful because we want to relive that. We have to allow them to be themselves, to find who they are, and to express that, and to give that into the world. So how do you pause the performance machine? How do you pause all the noise and chaos and the speed of which things are moving, and how inundated our children are with so much information coming at them? Social media, YouTube, you name it. It's like, how do you create pause? How do you create pause for them to have quiet time in their day? How do you have weekly check-ins as a family? Do you have family time to stay connected? and do things that you like value. What's your legacy you want to leave as a family? What do you all value? Are you all out doing that? Is it acts of service in your community, feeding the homeless? It doesn't have to be every week, once a month, whatever it might be. How do you teach your teens identity beyond sports? How do they know what their values are? How do they know who they are? Have they done any type of work around any of that? Who do I want to be? What do I want to give to the world? And what does that look like for me? And how do you shift from fear-based parenting to, kind of that what if they fail, to leadership parenting? Who are you becoming? Who do you want to be? They can't fail. I'll give you the secret. They can't fail. They are a child of God. God has equipped them with everything they needed from the moment that they came in. And we, as parents, are not giving that to them. God himself is giving that to them. We're just a space for them to learn and reflect. And just like they create space for us to learn and reflect as parents, we're given to each other to grow each other to the highest capabilities that we have in this lifetime. And so I would just implore you, of when you think you're the one in control, that is a fear-driven thinking. I've got to control this. I've got to control this for them. No, God is in control. God is all knowing. God is all loving. God is all good. God is all that is. God already knows how this is going to play out for your child. Do we get them connected in with that? Get them connected in with themselves so they have a strong sense of being, so that they can then go into the world and do the most incredible work possible. That's the invitation I think we have as parents, is we're not the ones in control. We're not behind, we're not ahead. We have to just be in the now with them and create space for them to learn all the lessons, just like we wanted that with our parents. We don't have to take the bus keys away. If you listen to my podcast earlier in the week, you don't have to take them away. We need to teach them how to drive with the GPS, with the guidance, with the directions, so that they're successful. So legacy doesn't come from performance. It comes from purpose passed down through presence. And so I have two things to share with you. Thursday, June 26th at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we're hosting a workshop. Your student athlete is the bus driver. So for parents, coaches, anyone out there, of like, how do we start to become the GPS system and to lead this next generation of young talent, please join us. We also do a 5-day reset for families and athletes that all we ask is $100 donation to the charity of our choice at Blueprint to Bluechip. So you can DM me reset if you'd like to do the 5-day completely free reset, or you can DM me bus if you want to join on Thursday. You can also write a letter. So please DM me if you have anything to share. I love connecting with all of you, sharing what's on your heart to help other people. And for those CEOs and founders, I also have a 5-day reset, which is to help you find clarity. So you can DM me the word clarity. I have you covered. I have you covered. I want to help people get into alignment with the truth of who they are, so they can go into the world and be a positive force for everyone around them. So please join me.